Well, talk about a political flip. The federal government is now pushing to stop undocumented students from getting in-state tuition. These laws were once considered bipartisan. Joining us now to discuss is Dr. Zachary Marschall, the editor-in-chief of Campus Reform. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, first, I just want to talk about why this flip is actually happening, because I remember back in the day, years ago, when Texas extended in-state tuition to undocumented students. Of course, that recently changed. The Trump Justice Department filed that complaint against Texas. They really didn't fight it, and now those students will not receive in-state tuition. So where have we seen this break here? It has gone from red states kind of backing this issue to where we are today.
Yeah, I think this is an issue of fairness because when we had the policies roll out initially in the George Bush administration, no one could have predicted where we would be now with $100,000 tuition rates at private universities and up to $40,000 at public universities. Also, we've had 4 years of the Biden administration just letting millions of people into the country without any accountability. So I think this is now about making it fairer for law-abiding American citizens, many of whom can't afford college. We have taxpayers subsidizing illegal immigrants, and only 30-something% of Americans have a college degree. It's not fair that people who work hard or can't afford college are subsidizing people's education after they broke the law.
Well, you have Texas, the Trump administration, the Justice Department going after Texas, but they're targeting other states as well, I believe 3 other states. Do you think it's going to work in those states, or do you expect more of this to follow state to state to state?
I do expect this to be a domino effect because I think the momentum right now is with the Trump administration. We're seeing a clean sweep right now with universities settling with the Trump administration over Title VI investigations and DEI, and I think that this issue is no different. State governments and individual universities realize that we've had a broken system for years now, and I think there's now finally political and social will to rectify that.
Well, let's look at the numbers real quick. Our producer found these numbers regarding out-of-state tuition. You kind of talked about just the high cost, and we all know the high cost of going to college is outrageous. 30 to 40,000 annually. This is out of state tuition. In-state tuition ranges from 10 to 12,000. You talk about what you're considering a fairness issue, but these students are living in state. We're talking about undocumented students who do live in state, and they will be getting the in-state tuition.
Yes, absolutely. But we are also seeing pushes in previous years for illegal immigrant students to get in-state tuition, even when they were out of state. That has been a proposal. There's also been millions of dollars spent by universities for aid and services for illegal immigrant students. And there's also resources being put in to help deter ICE on campus when they are trying to investigate people on the campus. So it's not just the in-state tuition costs, it's also the amount of student fees, student tuition dollars from American citizens that's being used to create this special class of students, all of whom are not American citizens and who are not among the law-abiding Americans going to college and taking out loans or spending their hard-earned money to go to school.
I want to talk briefly before we leave about the New York Times, an article about campus reform, because you've been on this program since we started 4.5 years ago, the National News Desk, now the National News Desk. And you've grown apparently from this New York Times article, and I find it so fascinating. And we have a sliver, we have your picture, that's the picture they used, but they said a tiny conservative news outlet pioneered what they're saying, the attack on higher education. A tiny conservative news outlet pioneered attack on higher education, but they go in depth about how you've made this difference. How has this been for you, Campus Reform, finally really getting your name out, getting attention in the New York Times, because you did start here and now you've grown like this?
Yeah, well, I think the David and Goliath story is timeless, and props to your outlet because you guys have recognized the issues and have acknowledged them for much longer than the Times. This is a reckoning moment for mainstream media and liberal media, especially the New York Times, that chose to ignore reports Campus Reform and others were putting out there for years now, and we now can't ignore it. The anti-Semitism crisis is really the straw that broke the camel's back and shattered the illusion among the left that everything is fine in higher education. It's not, and I think people will now realize that there are longstanding trend lines and phenomena happening in higher ed that are problematic, and it's not just hyperbole when it's real and it's documented.
You know, that's one thing I have noticed is over the last 4 years of you guys have grown. The spotlight that's now on higher education has grown over the last 4 years, and it has been because of some organizations like yours continuing to talk about these issues.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everything that starts on campus never stays on campus. When we go back, 10 years ago, we saw the start of Black Lives Matter rhetoric, and that took 4 years to get off campus into this summer of 2020. We saw things around transgender ideology start 5 to 10 years before pronouns became a national debate. So this is not just cherry picking, as the left media would choose to accuse campus reform of doing. These are ideas being born in a factory of indoctrination and brainwashing, and we were the first to show the country that this is actually connected to the lives of all Americans, no matter if you're on campus or not. And I think New York Times is now learning its lesson.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Editor-in-Chief, Campus Reform, Zachary Marschall. Take care.
Thanks.